Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates.
Welcome back to our final segment of Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates. I'm your host, Mike Oglinski. Anyway, I was talking with attorney Gary Melton from our law firm about bankruptcy in this episode of the show. One of the things I really wanted to cover before we ran out of time were what is dischargeable and what's not as far as debts.
Sure. Most of your unsecured debt, like credit cards, that's all going to be dischargeable. Debts that are not dischargeable would be student loans, generally are not dischargeable. If you owe spousal support or child support arrears, you can't discharge that in bankruptcy. Other debts would be anything that's secured. Because if you don't pay on that, if you don't pay on your home, and you go into default, the lender can still foreclose on the home. Just because you file for bankruptcy doesn't discharge your obligation to pay that debt. And so those are the main ones that usually come up, debts that are not dischargeable.
So why is it that, and I was always wondering this, why is it that it's so rigid when it comes to student loans?
You know, I don't know. I think it's probably because the government's involved in it. And the government makes the rules, you know?
Well, I was actually reading an article talking about this legislation where they're kind of looking at student loans and, you know, why they're not dischargeable. And, you know, they had said that they thought that there would be a wave of people coming out of school because when you're of a certain age, you don't have any assets and you could declare bankruptcy, start on your professional path, and then, which probably is right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, also, what about like medical bills and tax obligations?
Medical bills definitely are dischargeable. Tax obligations generally are not.
Okay, so you see some harder roads when it comes to student loans and taxes.
And anything, again, with child support.
Anything with child support, that's right. So really, if we're looking at it, if there's government involvement, usually it's a harder road with bankruptcy to get them discharged. That's great. You know, one of the other things too, like I mentioned in the second segment, was the payment for bankruptcy and how people have a hard time because they're already at you know, financially strained when they come in to see us. And that's why one of the neat things that we started doing, or we're starting to do actually about now, is a thing called Legal Pay 90, where we're actually able to put people on payment plans for bankruptcies, which is really a tremendous tool. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people out there who are toying with either filing for themselves or having an attorney assist them. And it is a fairly complex process as far as what I've seen. And this is a great way for people to be able to come into our offices, very low prices actually, and start their bankruptcies. So you might see a new wave of people coming in taking advantage of that. So we're actually really glad to offer that. That's just an aside. Oh, and one other aside before we go into some of this workers' comp, because I know we needed to talk about that too. In fact, you're doing a seminar today for bankruptcy at the Prompt Nugget. Well, by the time this is aired, you've already done it, but the Prompt Nugget with Nevada Legal Services, which is pretty great. So.
Yeah, that'll be. It's always good to get out and help in the community.
Yeah, that's great. Good pro bono work. So we do appreciate you doing that too. Anyway, so again, I wanted to talk a little bit about workers' comp. You know, there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about workers' comp. When are you eligible? How do you actually see a successful claim? You know, in fact, we were just talking off air. You know, people believe that, oh, you have to file for 3 times before you can get it. What are you seeing in your workers' comp practice?
Sure. Well, in workers' comp, I think that the most important thing for people to know is just what's on. A lot of times in your lunchroom, there'll be a poster on the wall that will tell you exactly what you need to do if you're injured on the job. And there's some forms that need to be filled out. One's a C1 form, another's a C4 form. My advice is to read that poster and really become familiar with what you need to do if you're injured on the job. Because if those forms are not filled out on a timely or in a timely manner, then it can make or break your workers' comp claim. So I think that's the biggest thing is making sure people understand that if they're injured, you got to let your boss know. You got to make sure that those forms are filled out, and things will go a lot smoother.
If somebody is injured on the job, I mean, let's say, as far as real world, let's say today, they trip and they fall and they're injured at their job, or there's some type of incident at their job. They notify their boss. Then they fill out the forms, as
Sure.
you'd mentioned. What were the names of the forms again?
The C1 form, it's a notice of incident report, and basically on it you're just letting your employer know that you were injured and what happened. The C4 form that I spoke about, that's a form that should be filled out by your doctor.
Okay.
So when you tell your employer that you've been injured, your employer should send you to a physician, and the physician should fill out the C4 form. And again, those forms are crucial.
Okay. So then you see a physician and they assess your injury, and then at that point, is that when you would contact an attorney to help you with your workers' comp claim?
Well, it's probably a good idea, but what would happen at that point is your employer should, and you need to make sure that you stay in communication with your employer, make sure that they're doing everything. But a claim should be filed with the C1, the C4, and there's some other forms that your employer will fill out. They should be all submitted to the insurance company, the workers' comp insurance company, so that they can make a determination on as to whether they're going to accept or reject your claim. And the way that they do that is you'll receive written notice. You'll get a letter from the workers' comp insurance company that will say whether your claim has been accepted or rejected.
Okay, so if you feel that any part of this process you're being impeded by by trying to file this workers' comp claim, is that the time that you would call your attorney?
Sure, for sure at that point.
At that point.
If you receive a letter stating that your claim's been rejected, I think it's probably a good idea to contact an attorney.
Or if you feel as if your boss isn't doing everything procedurally what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's true.
How does payment work on workers' comp? So somebody's hurt and now they're not working. How can they afford an attorney?
Well, the way we do it is it's on a contingency basis. So whatever money we recover for the injured worker, we take a percentage of that.
Oh, okay. So there's no money up front then.
That's correct.
Okay, that's great. So, yeah, I guess that's workers' comp in a nutshell, and we'll probably get a lot more questions about it. And if you do have questions about workers' comp or bankruptcy, you can call our Pahrump office at 775-727-4400, or you can call us at our Las Vegas office, which is 702-258-3034. And then also, if you have questions about our Legal Pay 90 program, which is actually a retainer aid for some of those hourly cases like bankruptcies and short sales, in criminal cases, DUI, that type of thing, again, please just call our offices. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about them. And we do appreciate you being on tonight, Gary. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely have you back on. Anyway, so we'll be on again next week, 6 p.m., Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates. Thanks again for tuning in. And give me a call if you got any questions. All right? Thanks. Good night.
Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates.